No word in the Islamic tradition has been so violently kidnapped, stripped of its soul, and paraded in chains as jihad. A term once burning with the spirit of inner purification, moral courage, and divine justice, now lies disfigured, spat on, and repackaged as a global threat. A sacred struggle turned into a slur, a word of discipline turned into a weapon of propaganda. Who hijacked jihad? Non-Muslim empires, military think tanks, Hollywood, politicians. They forged a monstrous caricature and named it Jihad. A media-friendly bogeyman engineered to provoke panic, justify invasions, pass surveillance laws, unleash drone warfare, freeze charities, criminalize resistance, and suffocate Muslim nations under the weight of suspicion. They didn't just redefine the word, they declared war on it. Suddenly, Muslim equals terrorist resistance, equals radicalism, hijab equals hostility, Palestinian defense equals Islamic extremism. The word jihad became the West's all-purpose excuse to bomb, to ban, to occupy, to humiliate. They weaponized misunderstanding. They fed the masses a lie soaked in centuries of colonial contempt. And when Muslims are killed by drones, tanks, sanctions, or snipers, they are either labeled terrorists or dismissed as collateral damage. Their deaths are brushed aside, statistics in a war of stability. But when non-Muslims die in the same scenario, they are instantly mourned as innocent civilians, their humanity broadcast across headlines. The injustice is cold and calculated. Muslims are painted as the perpetrators, never the victims, and Islam, yet again, is wrongfully indicted as barbaric. A suicide bomber kills innocents. They scream jihad. A woman in a scarf walks into a bank. They raise an eyebrow. A Muslim boy protests injustice. They call it radicalization. But when a Western soldier guns down children in the name of peacekeeping, that's bravery, that's heroism, that's democracy exported at gunpoint. This isn't ignorance, this is ideological warfare, a calculated erasure of meaning, a distortion with geopolitical teeth. They didn't just twist the word, they crucified it. But the word jihad still lives, and it must be reclaimed, not apologetically but defiantly. Because its true meaning threatens the very lies they depend on. The lie that Muslims are inherently violent, that faith breeds terror, that submission to God is a threat to man-made power. And so they buried the truth. But truth doesn't die, it rises. This struggle, this jihad, unfolds in many forms. The greater jihad, al-jihad al-akbar, the invisible war, not a war of weapons, but of will, the silent, unseen battle between the soul and the self. No parades, no medals, only silent victories or soul-crushing defeats. This is the greater jihad, where the battlefield is the heart and the enemy wears your own face. Resisting temptation. Not all battles are loud, like standing firm at a party where alcohol flows and mockery reigns on the abstainer. The true defiance is in walking away, choosing Allah over applause, clarity over indulgence. Fighting arrogance, anger, lust, when insulted publicly, and pride begs for retaliation. But you respond with calm. when rage rises but you walk away, when lust stirs but you lower your gaze. That's jihad, the ego crushed before it corrupts. Staying sincere in worship, waking before dawn, not for display, but to stand alone before Allah. When no one's watching and the bed pulls harder than faith, still you rise. That's sincerity, and that's jihad. The lesser jihad, al-jihad al-asghar, not a cry of bloodlust, but a call to uphold truth when all else fails. It is not chaos unleashed, but divine order enforced with restraint, ethics, and unshakable purpose. This is not war for glory. It is a sacred, disciplined fight for justice, under divine command and strict moral law. It's a war fought only under a legitimate ruler with authority, wisdom, and accountability, not mobs or freelancers. This is not personal vendetta. Anything else is chaos, wearing the mask of righteousness. To defend the Muslim community when attacked, when the innocent are targeted and homes are reduced to rubble, rising to protect them is not violence, it is duty. The sword is drawn not for conquest, but to shield the vulnerable when the world turns its back. To resist tyranny and oppression, when a regime silences truth, crushes the weak, and spills blood in the streets, the righteous have no choice but to rise, not for power, but to shatter the chains of injustice when silence becomes a crime. To uphold justice when peaceful means fail. When courts are corrupt and peaceful cries are ignored, the sword becomes the final witness to truth. Not out of vengeance, but because justice must not die in the shadows. Never for conquest, revenge, or chaos. Land, power, hatred. None of these justify jihad. It is not a tool for empire, but a shield for justice. The moment it serves ego, it ceases to be sacred. Bound by divine ethics, far beyond modern warfare. While modern armies massacre without remorse, the rules of jihad forbid what they allow. No civilians, no women or children, no elders, no sacred sites, no scorched earth. Even in war, the innocent must remain untouched. The sword has no business with those who do not fight. Even in war, the weak are not collateral. The protection of women, children, and the elderly defines the sanctity of the struggle. Fields must stand, and holy places remain untouched. Because jihad is not destruction, it is restoration. No torture of prisoners. Vengeance ends at capture. Even the enemy, when disarmed, is a soul under divine protection, as seen when Hamas returned Israeli hostages, actual prisoners of war, unharmed and in dignity, in stark contrast to the broken, barely recognizable state of illegally detained Palestinian prisoners released from Israeli jails. Jihad, as it was meant to be understood, has never been a call for mindless destruction or unrestrained violence. Take, for example, the Battle of Badr, 624 CE. When the Muslims fought back after years of persecution in Mecca, Allah authorized it. Permission to fight has been given to those who are being fought because they were wronged. Quran, Surah Al-Hajj, Ayah 39 and 40. This was defensive, just, and in line with divine guidance. Yet the world ignores this and falsely brands the 9/11 attacks as jihad. No scholar, no Islamic text permits suicide terrorism. Murder of civilians is haram, an utter betrayal of the core teachings of Islam. Likewise, peaceful Muslim protests against Quran burnings or anti-Islam laws are often met with labels like radicalism, but speaking truth, defending faith and standing firm in the face of oppression is jihad of the tongue. When Muslim women wear the niqab in France or the hijab in hostile environments, they are painted as oppressed or dangerous. But in reality, it is jihad with the body, a silent, graceful resistance against the pressure to disobey Allah, a rejection of the false narrative that Muslim identity is a threat. But jihad is not just something Muslims fight for, it's something the world must understand. Even non-Muslims at times have admired the true essence of jihad. Sheikh al-Hind Maulana Mahmud Hassan, for example, resisted British colonial rule through education and reform, spending years imprisoned in Malta. His jihad was one of the mind, an intellectual resistance to tyranny. Similarly, Emir Abdel Kader of Algeria led a defensive jihad against the French occupation, fighting not to conquer, but to defend the innocent, with respect for civilian life and human dignity. His actions were a jihad for justice, celebrated even by his enemies. During the Bosnian conflict of the 1990s, Muslims endured unimaginable suffering in death camps, yet they clung to their faith, prayer, modesty, and Ramadan. Their moral jihad, in the face of atrocity, shook the conscience of the world. And Malcolm X, on his Hajj in 1964, called it his jihad against racism, a transformation of the heart, a journey of the soul, a redefinition of his mission, a jihad of the heart and mind. This misrepresentation, this twisted caricature of jihad, is not just an attack on a word. It is an attack on a legacy of resistance, faith, and justice. It fuels Islamophobia, turning neighbors into suspects. It criminalizes Muslim identity, labeling worship, speech, and defense as threats. It gives cover for wars, drone strikes, bans, and surveillance. It blinds people to Islam's moral grandeur and the beauty of its resistance against evil. Jihad is not the threat. Ignorance is. It is the soul's battle to rise above the animal self. It is the defense of faith when faith is outlawed. It is the voice that says no to tyranny and yes to truth, even when truth hurts. It is the niqab worn in defiance, the prayer whispered in prison, the hunger endured in Gaza, the truth spoken in a secular court.
Silence in the court!
So next time someone says jihad, don't picture a bomb. Picture a believer on their knees, fighting a war within.